because right now we're focusing on pure facts. We'll come to the opinion later. And I also want to introduce at this time Kamlesh Singh. Kamlesh has been working very closely with Ashish and me on putting the story together. Kamlesh heads our websites, the India Today websites, the Aaj Tak website. Thank you very much for joining us, Kamlesh. But it's not just spamming that our man Somnath Bharti is currently accused of. There is also a very strong porn connection. Let Ashish explain that to our viewers, because this is something that clearly needs to be investigated further. But what is fairly visible, and you've got footprints all over the internet, is that there were porn domain names which were sold by the same company that belongs to Somnath Bharti.
See, Rahul, the concrete evidence that we have, but it certainly needs to be further investigated, is that there is a website called allwebhunt.com. Now, if you see the IP address of allwebhunt.com and somnathbharti.com, it is the same address. Again, now we also have the internal data. Some of one of our sources helped us, and it very clearly says we have a internal data shows he had a partner called Paul Onger. He is no longer his partner, but certainly there is a email address paul@allwebhunts.com. And then if you also trade the whois data, if you try and track that, you will find that it is the same address, 1300 Evans Avenue, San Francisco, California, which is the given address of Topsites LLC. So, there are certain points which certainly raise doubts that obviously he must be also involved in porn, because the cashier records that we have, it very clearly shows that the moment you click that cashier record, which is the Google cashier record, it shows that it reaches to a sort of a search engine which actually takes you to certain porn websites.
As recently at 2011. Let me just try and explain this to our viewers once, so that we don't get carried away with what we're saying. There is no direct evidence yet to show that Somnath Bharti himself was in the porn business in any way. But what is fairly clearly established is that companies that he owned domain names. That's what they're called, yes. Domain names, which had all sorts of porn connections. Those were basically domain names that he owned, which he wanted to go out and sell to others. Yeah. That is established. I want to bring Kamlesh in. You've been looking very, very closely at all these web caches, the internet history, and you understand this much better than I do. Explain to our viewers why Somnath Bharti's defense that he put out earlier is completely bogus.
See, Somnath Bharti had some connection with Topsites LLC, that is proven.
He denied it. He officially denied it when he sent that response.
No, there is too much of digital footprint for him to deny that. Did he sell those porn domains? We don't know. Nobody knows. He should answer that. But Topsites LLC and some other companies that he had connections with were involved in selling those domain names. One. Second, Topsites LLC, he no longer owns now. Who did he sell it to? For how much money? That nobody knows. That's not declared.
No, but let's look, Madhu Keshwar, at what Somnath Bharti is saying. When he was asked about why is this not part of your election affidavit, he said incorrectly that this is no longer a company that I own. What he denied was any association with the company, which is not true, because the man owned it, he set it up, it was registered in his name, at his address. His excuse so far has been something like Suresh Raina when he got into trouble on Twitter and said, it's my nephew who did it. His excuse is that somebody who was associated with me did this on my behalf. I did not know what my associate in the US was up to. Is that a fair defense?
Let me start by congratulating you and your team, your Headlines Today team, for doing an excellent job. I mean, this is what investigative journalism should look like or act like. The kind of evidence that you are presenting, I don't know how plain denials will do. But they are so used to shoot and scoot, they are so used to singing their own stuti gans, that I don't know if it's going to make the slightest bit of difference to them. I'm sure within no time they will accuse you and the HT team of being propped up by somebody else, the enemies of AAP and all the rest of it. Because the evidence that you're presenting is so strong, and you're doing it very cautiously. I've been hearing every word you say. You don't exceed your brief, you're not making wild charges, unlike AAP. you're being careful, and they really need to answer. And I'm not surprised. You know, you're careful in saying they may or he may or may not have sold all these pornography stuff, but I'm not surprised given the connection, because the first thing he did was to go chase sex rackets.
No, that's being
I'm sorry,
unfair.
I know why.
I don't want to
Why?
get into a malicious
No, it's not malicious.
character
What did he do?
assassination
Is
of
it-
any
I'm
sort.
sorry,
We're on
what did he
pure
do?
ethics, we're
What
on
did
law.
the way he
Rahul-
behaved,
Rahul, the
the way
most-
he behaved with those Ugandan women, the way he humiliated them. This is mafia operation. This is not how law ministers behave. It was lawless, and in the same way in which these websites and his, the net business he's in,
No,
is acting
but
lawlessly.
Subimal, I want to look at the
Spam
larger
business,
issue.
that's lawlessness.
Someone can
His
say
own actions
that
are
now
lawless.
what is not, it is clearly unethical. In the United States, it's illegal. In India, I spoke to a cyber lawyer who said after the recent amendments in the IT Act, it's illegal in India as well.
From 2000, when we had the IT Act, it
However,
was illegal.
Somnath Bharti can argue that when I did it, it was in a grey area. Unethical, no doubt, but in a grey area. I was a lawyer. This is a scam that many people have been part of. And let me just give our viewers a brief sense of what
He did
happened.
his law after the scam broke out.
Okay, no, but the point is
Yes.
that several people have taken franchisees, as it were, of this spamming operation just to make money on the side. Does it in any way impact what he's doing as a minister?
Let me tell you, the IT Act, the Information Technology Act was passed in 2000. Even then, spamming is factored in under Section 66. Well, when we had the amendment in 2008, we went to 66A, B, C, D, E, F, all those kind of things. But legally, we covered spamming even then. So the argument that he did something in 2003, 2004, hence it was a gray area, that just doesn't hold. Now, having said so, as a minister, as you have put the question, as a minister, I'm sure definitely, this kind of tendencies don't really sell well, because you came on a premise where you tried to prove that you guys were all absolutely clean. You tried to set across a message that everything around you was clean, but you were a lawbreaker even before
No,
you
but let
settled
me ask this
court.
question to, yes,
I want to
Madhu,
come in
bring
for a
Mr.
minute.
Beni.
No, I want to come in for a minute. See, even if, for example, in India, pornography were not illegal, but it's hardly the most respectable way to earn a living. Even in countries like Sweden, where it is legal, it's not considered a particularly respectable way to earn a living. The point is that if you go for the lowest forms of earning a living or making your big buck, then you cannot claim that high moral ground that AAP has been claiming, and you will find this happening with many others also.
But let me
it's
ask
going to be
Mr.
a
Beni
party
this question.
that will give
Mr.
us
Beni,
the biggest scams ever.